Hey everybody, welcome to this week's Roundup. No special announcements or anything, so let's jump right in. First up, Mike Chi has just released a new official firmware for the RetroTink 4K, both the CE and the Pro, and this is essentially just a roll-up firmware from all of the betas that have been released in the past year. Now, just to be clear, any of those experimental firmwares are actually pretty stable and not anything you need to worry about. And you don't have to redo any of your profiles, or it doesn't erase anything. So at any time, feel free to bounce between any of these firmwares, try the experimental, whatever. But this is an official firmware update, and there's even an optional SD card update too if you want all of the new amazing profiles that have been released by members of the community. So if you want details on what's been released in the past year, there's a small summary of everything that was added in the post, but you're really going to want to just search RetroRGB for RetroTink 4K firmware updates. I have a link to that too to make it easier, just to see all of the stuff that was added, because there's way too much to go over in just a weekly podcast section. But yeah, this is all the awesome stuff that I've been talking about and demoing, just now all rolled up into one firmware, beta tested by a lot of people and pretty stable. A new Atari Jaguar game is available to purchase on cartridge as a complete in-box package. It's for a game called Wings of Death, which was originally released in 1990 on the Amiga and Atari ST. However, the original developer, Eclipse Software, remade the game specifically for the Jaguar, and there's improvements like average 20 frames per second on the originals are now 60 frames per second, which is a massive, massive difference, by the way. There's also more colors available on the Jaguar, so it should look better, as well as a couple of different difficulty modes as well. The price is about $100 and it's in stock now. And the first run of production will come with a CD soundtrack with both the original ST and Amiga soundtracks. So this is one of those things where if you own a Jaguar and you like original carts and you like shooters, then this is something you should seriously consider. Because there's a lot of fun conversions on the Jaguar, things that are just straight up ports from like the ST or something. But this is more than that. This is basically a remake of the game. So it's a retro remake on a retro console. I don't know. It looks awesome. So definitely check out the main post if you're interested. There's some gameplay footage as well if you want to see what it's like. But this just seems like a fun and exciting one for Atari Jaguar owners. There's some updates to the Octopus Fight Stick project. First, a new firmware was released that addressed some of the bugs that people had found, like N64 issues, as well as added 6 different button layouts for the Neo Geo. And also, all orders, including ones placed right now, are expected to ship to customers before the end of the year. So there were some long wait times in there. A lot of them were already talked about. I think the last time I talked about this, they said it would be shipping by the end of the year. So they seem to be at least on target now. But this is great because they're finally coming in stock. And of course, we'll update everybody again when they're actually in stock and shipping basically same day. But it's just good to know that if you put your pre-order in now, you're not going to have to wait very long. Now, this is expensive, but this is one of the many times I say it's not overpriced, it's just expensive. If you are simply looking for a good quality fight stick to connect to your super gun, and that's all you need, you can get much cheaper ones that are equal quality and zero latency, especially if you direct wire it. But that's not who buys this. People who buy the Octopus Fight Stick wants the built-in Dreamcast VMU, wants compatibility with a ton of retro consoles, and wants 3 milliseconds of latency via USB. That's not 3 frames, 3 milliseconds. That's incredible, and that's due to the Brook Retro board that's used inside of it for the USB stuff. So if you want more info on it, I think the best thing to listen to or watch would be the podcast I did with Beast a couple months ago, and just skip to the section about the Octopus Fight Stick. He really dug in deep to that, and I think it's something that if you are on the fence about it, that might push you in one direction or the other. Once again, with all respect, this isn't the fight stick for everybody. You might not need all of these extra things, but you might really want them too. So I would give that one a listen, and the links to everything are right here in the post. And also, if you want $25 off your purchase, use coupon code RetroRGB. I think we all know how I feel about those, but I'm not going to not tell you about them. So I'd rather save you the $25. So use that if you plan on buying one. Developer Rafael Silva has just released a new patch for Symphony of the Night for the Sega Saturn that could end up being the current ultimate patch for the game. First, Raphael added a Portuguese translation to the game, but also went back and redid some of the English translations with the PS1 version. Also, a lot of the other things that had been added over the years were tweaked in this patch. And while this wasn't done with the original team, it used a lot of the same stuff. So basically, this is one of those things where if you're interested in playing Symphony of the Night on the Saturn, not the PlayStation version, then you should definitely look into these patches that were made for it that improve performance, add better translations or translations at all and stuff like, and depending on which version you're looking at. Uh, and, the PS1 version might arguably still be the superior version, but every single person I've talked to that's also played through the Saturn version tells me that it's absolutely worth playing through and I should give it a try someday. I do plan on doing that at some point. I don't have any extra time for playing through that. And I did finish the game once, geez, almost a decade ago now, maybe a little less than that. But so I think I would really enjoy it with fresh eyes. So one of these days I will get around to doing it, and I'll probably use this patch, which is from Raphael and Medusa team as well. So all the details are in Dan's post if you're interested, as well as links on where to get it and all that stuff. But I really liked it. And while I wasn't the biggest fan of the NES Castlevanias, I didn't dislike them. I just wasn't a mega fan. I really loved Symphony of the Night. So I'm looking forward to eventually playing the Saturn version of this, and we're definitely going to use something like this. I just found a decent sounding $15 speaker bar for PCs that's powered off a USB and just connects to any 3.5 millimeter audio jack. Now, you might be wondering why I made a post on RetroRGB about this rather than just mentioning it at the end with the short reviews I've been doing. And hopefully by the end of this section, you'll completely get it, because I have a feeling at least half the people listening are going to be like, oh yeah, I get it now. But there's a couple of reasons that this is important. First of all, I still absolutely love my Motu M4 interface and the two Yamaha magnetically shielded studio monitors I've been using. They're incredible. I love them. But I hate leaving them on all day long just to hear DMs come in and make sure I get basic audio stuff in the background. It really seems like a waste, and it seems like I'm wearing expensive equipment for no reason. So I wanted some kind of cheap audio speakers, and when I was testing those monitors, the ones that had speakers built in were perfect. They weren't great, but it doesn't really matter if all you're listening to is DM beeps and stuff like that. So when I was testing these monitors, I noticed that every single one of them registered on your PC as an audio device. And that really got me thinking, well, I get it. They all have 3.5 millimeter audio jacks in it for headphones and stuff like that. But anybody who does any kind of audio recording, or especially any streamers, already know that the more audio devices you have connected to your PC, the more chance something's going to go wrong. How many people have plugged in a USB mic midstream and crashed the stream or something like that? So I wanted to just use PC speakers because it's already an audio device that's in there anyway. I didn't want to add another device, and I certainly didn't want to put two more speakers just sitting on my desk. So I took this speaker bar, which was very light and very cheap, and just taped it to the back of my monitor using industrial strength tape. That's this tape that it won't come off unless you cut it, and then you could roll it off with your finger so it won't damage whatever you're taping it to, but it does a great job holding it in place. And I loved it. I did a very short 2-minute video, shorter than my rambling now, in fact, showing exactly how I taped it up there. And when you're looking at it, it just has a clean look. It doesn't look like there's anything else there. It doesn't add more speakers to a setup like mine that already has speakers on it. And it sounds fine. It doesn't sound good, but it sounds equal to or better than any of the crappy PC speakers that I've been listening to. And it also solves the issue of you're spending a bunch of money on a new monitor and it doesn't have speakers. Why can't you just have basic audio? I also showed a picture at the end where you just leave it sitting on the desk stand if you want to, and that's actually pretty nice. I liked it much better than adding 2 more speakers to my desk. It almost looks like a surround sound setup, even though it's not. It's like I have it this way right now. It's like the speaker bar in the middle and the 2 main studio monitors on the left and right. So yeah, I wanted to share this because this isn't just a cheap speaker bar. I mean, it 100% is just a cheap speaker bar, but it solves a couple of different issues that if you don't have these problems, you're like, shut up, Bob, please move on to the next section. But I guarantee you there's a bunch of people listening going, I get it. I'm going to check that thing out now. So links to everything are right in the post. This one's on sale for a while longer. It's only 15 bucks and it sounds totally fine. There's a fork of DOSBOX out there called DOSBOX Pure Unleashed that's designed to simplify and enhance the whole retro PC gaming experience across Windows, Mac, and Linux platforms. And it has a bunch of different features like the ability to load games directly from zip files, making it feel a lot more like you're loading a ROM rather than booting up a PC game. Which, the nostalgic experience of that is fun, but if you're really in it to play the game, you want to just get to the game as fast as possible. So that's pretty awesome. It also automatically detects games and assigns controller mappings to your gamepad and keyboard, which anybody that's dealt with that in the past knows how much of a giant time saver that is. And it also allows the easy installation of Windows 98, complete with 3dFX graphic acceleration. And it supports save states. So this is a pretty big update to this and something a lot of people listening might want to look into. Lou did a quick video on it that's definitely worth watching. It's short and kind of shows everything you need. And I'm glad we were able to share it with everybody because a lot of retro PC stuff is a lot of fun, but sometimes it could be a massive, massive pain to get working. And this really simplifies a lot of it. Some awesome news for fans of original Atari Jaguar hardware. Zaxor has just released a complete bypass kit that's both video and audio bypass. This cures that SNES 2-chip-like smear that you get in the video and sharpens it up really nicely, as well as improves the audio by pulling it out of the original DAC and running it through a non-inverting op-amp that Zaxor added to the circuit. It's not the hardest installation. Firebrand X did a ton of testing and did the installation guide pictures as well, which came out great. And there's actually two different ways to install it. You could remove the RF box, which this is still a no-cut mod, regardless of what method you use, just for the record. But you could just remove the RF box and you put this in its place and mount it with a 10-pin mini DIN, so Sega Saturn style. And that's great if you already don't have high quality video output cables for the Jaguar, or maybe you bought some cheap AliExpress thing years ago and you finally want to get a good one. However, if you already have good output cables, especially if you have one of those really awesome Humble Bazooka boxes, you could still use it with this. And in fact, you should be able to install it even without removing the RF box and just wire everything over to the secondary outputs. Now, I'm pretty sure you can't use both at the same time, the Saturn Mini DIN, or safely use the Saturn Mini DIN and the other one. I think you'd have to probably mix and match which signals you were tapping into, and I just wouldn't do that. I don't think that would be a good thing to do, but you could use either or just pick one of them. For me personally, I always like my consoles to look stock whenever possible. And while I wouldn't miss the RF box, if I didn't need to remove it, I would just want to leave it as is and have it look completely stock. However, the audio and video output would be a giant upgrade as well. A couple of other just personal recommendations here. If you're taking the time to refurbish your Jaguar like this, you might want to consider a recap as well. Console 5 sells the cap kits for like $5. And you also should really think about addressing the power. I almost said like you should definitely, but this is up to you. But for me personally, you could get from Zaxor on the same store, combined shipping, a $12 power protection circuit. That means if you plug in the wrong PSU, it won't blow up your Jaguar. I'm pretty hardcore OCD about power supplies, and I haven't made that mistake yet, but I have on my SNES. So I think I would probably do it just because. And of course, if you've already done that and blown out the power circuit on your Jaguar, Zaxor has another entire power circuit replacement board, which you don't need if it's currently functional, but you do need if it's blown out. So I would really just consider just doing the whole thing, because if you added the power protection, did the recap, and did the full bypass, and you did a really good job and made everything look nice, you probably never have to open your Jaguar again forever. Do a good cartridge slot cleaning too, though, because sometimes that was always a problem. But yeah, this is absolutely awesome. Check out Firebrand X, did an installation and demo video as well. That's embedded right here in the post if you're interested. And yeah, this is very cool. I also think it may have gone out of stock already, but don't worry, Zaxor is making more, so just bookmark that, jump back when it's time, and go from there. But I kind of had a feeling Jaguar owners would jump all over this because the messy video output has been a problem forever, and now it's not. The creator of the PicoGus has just announced the Pico IDE, which is both an optical drive and hard disk emulator for retro PCs and just connects to an IDE port. This is a CD-ROM slot sized, so you would put it in your retro PC case where a CD-ROM drive would go, and it could handle bin, in-queue, or ISO images for CD-ROM support, image, HDA, VHD, and HDF for hard drive. It's got built-in CD audio output on the 3.5-inch jack, and it also supports PIO mode 0 to 4 and multi-word DMA mode 0 to 2. There's also an optional drive bay enclosure with the OLED screen and 4-way navigation buttons for you to select everything right there, as well as Wi-Fi for remote control and uploader management of disk images. There's no price or availability yet, but the Pico Gus was extremely fairly priced, so I'm hoping to see this as well, because if you're going for the retro PC experience, sure, it's really nice to have everything all original, but that stuff doesn't last forever. Old hard drives aren't going to last very much longer relative to any kind of solid state stuff. So yeah, I'm very excited about this. Even though I don't own retro PCs and use them, I know a lot of people who do, and I'm excited for them because this just solves a ton of problems. But also, imagine just rotating a knob or something and selecting which disk image you want to boot up with. Like, that's awesome. You could go direct DOS, any one of the windows. You could put something funky on there. I like it. I think this is an awesome idea, and we'll update you as soon as there's any kind of official pre-order or sale going on. Ken from What's Ken Making just released a video showing off the DEC Mini Mr. Edition. So the DEC Mini is a 3D printed enclosure that allows you to put something inside of a box that looks like the original PC terminal from Digital Equipment Corporation. And what Ken did was modify that project so that you could put a Mister in it. And even where the floppy drive slot is, that's now an NFC reader, so you could use Zapparoo right inside of that as well. And I think this is one of those videos that anybody who's even remotely into this stuff should check out. Because even if you don't know what a DEC computer was, as soon as you see the picture of it, so if you're watching this on video, just even the thumbnail right here, you kind of get the sense of what it is. Oh, it's an old school PC terminal look to it, something that you might find in the late 70s type of thing. And it's just awesome to have a Mister built in, because this could totally be something that you also would use for old PC emulation. And I imagine if you're using any of the really old PC cores, this would feel on par with the original experience, other than CRT versus flat panel, of course. But I don't know. I just think this was really cool, and I really wanted Ken to share that here on RetroRGB as well. Because while I don't have the space currently for something like this, I love projects like it, and I would like to someday. I'd also like to someday have my old Tandy 1000 set up, but I don't know why. I would never use it. I'll power it on once a year to show somebody that comes over. This is the computer I grew up with. It's 40 years old. Look, it's still, but I wouldn't actually use it. But I'd totally use something like this. So definitely check out Ken's video in the post as well. It has a nice written summary of it. I don't, when contributors, just a little side note here, whenever contributors to RetroRGB post their own work, I ask them to most of the time. I want to share some of their stuff, and I get excited about it. And if they just post 2 sentences that says, this video is about X, here's where you can get it, more info, and that's it. That's cool. I'm totally happy with that. But I do love it when people take the time to do a quick written summary, because I bet you there's a lot of people at work who are going to read this post and not have the ability to listen and watch a whole video. So they get a summary and they get all hyped up about it, and then they go home and watch the video. So thanks to Ken and all the other people who contribute to RetroRGB, who take the time to do it. But you don't have to. Just posting a link and let me flap about it on the weekly roundup's all you need to do. Zaxor has just opened pre-orders on a very high quality no-cut mod replacement power supply for Pioneer LaserActive CLD A100s. And this is absolutely awesome, because those power supplies are a pain. They've been failing more and more lately, and it's nice to have a modern replacement for it. And it does use USB PD, which anybody who's heard me talk about that know I always have serious trust issues with that. However, in this very specific setup, and especially coming from Zaxor, I think it would be totally safe as long as you use a proper power supply on the external side of things, which Zaxor sent me the one that he was using to test, so I just linked that as well. But yeah, this is awesome. So now if you have a dead LaserActive waiting on a power supply, here you go. I know a bunch of people who would probably buy this power supply either to save until the original one dies, or to put in right now and just preserve the original just to have in case they ever want it. And since it's a complete no-cut mod, you could always just put it back the exact way it was. And in fact, you don't even need to solder anything. You basically just unbolt everything. You unplug the wiring harnesses. You put the 3D printed bracket in its place and slide it into it so it looks, factory finish in the back of it, and bolt it back in and plug all your cables back in. That's it. So it's not cheap at $165, but there's a lot that goes into this stuff. And it's my strong opinion that if you really like your LaserActive, your already insanely expensive device, think about this. Maybe you need it as a replacement. Maybe you want to buy it preemptively, because you know how this works. Every one of us knows how this works. You're going to say, mine's working fine. These are going to go out of stock, and then your power supply is going to die. So consider it. It's not one of those super cheap, buy it anyway type of things, but if you've invested a lot of money in a LaserActive setup, this one's definitely worth thinking about. So, this is a pre-order, but Zaxor thinks that they'll arrive to customers late December, early January type of thing. So you're not going to be waiting very long on it. But yeah, I'm happy to see this, and I'm glad to see even rare niche consoles like the LaserActive get some serious love. Before I go, a very quick review of a chair. Give me a second for this one though, because I think the general idea around this might be something that might help people. When I blew my back out all those years ago and I couldn't sit down for months, I ended up taking the desk that I had gotten from IKEA and just put the legs all the way down and turned it into a standing desk. And then when I was actually able to sit down again, I started looking into the price of adjustable desks, and they were really expensive, especially the motorized ones. So then I just thought, instead of buying a desk that goes up and down, why not just buy a tall chair? That way I'm also up higher and centered to the window, so I get more natural light in as well. And that's exactly what I did, but the chair that I bought only really lasted about 4 years. Now, in that time period, I also got very fat and then slimmed back down to just fat, so that probably had something to do with it, but I wanted to try a different brand, and I found one that was totally fine, but the seat cushion and seat back were very firm, which for a lot of people, that is actually exactly what they're looking for. Wide, firm seat. My bony butt likes a cushion, so I ended up returning this one. And I did try just putting a cushion on it, but as you saw in the video, it didn't really work out so well for getting on a tall chair. And just for the record, while that wasn't the actual shot where I legitimately fell, that happened so fast that it wasn't even worth putting in the video. It didn't look like anything was wrong. I did go back and do that stunt for real to kind of show off what actually happened. And that was legit. I shot off of that chair and landed right on my butt. And my butt and back hurt for like 2 days after making that. So even if you have no interest in a chair whatsoever, watch this stupid video just so you could watch me fall over at the end of it. But yeah, I ended up just ordering another one of the exact chair I bought a couple years ago. And I'm going to do another review of that, because why the heck not? It's all the same stuff that I do anyway. I just flip it on a camera and taking a couple of minutes to hastily slap together a badly edited video and occasionally do a stunt. So I don't know. I'm not sure. I think I might be too old to continue to do stuff like that, but it was fun and it made me laugh. So whatever. If you need a tall chair with a firm back and a firm butt, check this one out. And if not, but you're still thinking about maybe doing what I'm doing with a tall desk and a tall chair to save yourself a ton of money over buying one of those ones that goes up and down, not to mention when the table goes up and down, all your wires have to go with it and all that stuff. Maybe just wait for another week or two when I review the other one and see if you could pick which one fits your needs better. Well, that's it for this week. As always, thanks to everybody who watches, listens, plays nicely in the comments, and especially thank you to anybody who supports in absolutely any way, because it really is you who's keeping all this going. So thanks very much, and I'll see you next week. This week's Roundup is brought to you by Neo Paradigm Entertainment, connecting Southeast Asian influencers with opportunities in the West.